Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello again, and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I'm Joe Grumbine, and I will be your host. And I have back again with me today, Christine Leakos. Christine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing exceptionally well. Thank you, Joe, for having me on here today.
I love that. It's been almost a year since we've talked. I think you did one of the first 5 episodes we did, and we're now into a year of doing this. I've got over 50 episodes published, and I just really needed to get back in touch with you because you've been going through school, going through balancing. You're as much like me as anybody I've ever known as far as the craziness of taking on 1,000 things at once and just doing it. And you understand that. But the topic that we came here to talk about is about taking care of yourself a little bit and balancing and regardless of how ambitious and motivated and driven we are, you got to leave something in your own tank, or otherwise there's nothing to propel you forward. So, why don't you bring us up to speed? You've been in school, you've been learning, you've been practicing. Tell us what's been going on.
Well, I am going for my, as I mentioned before, I am going for my doctorate in Chinese medicine and herbology. This is my last year. Thank you, God. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey. And along with that journey, covering the fact that I do have a business, I do have a family, a house, dogs, and I pretty much can relate to most of the people out there. You know, one of the things that Chinese medicine brings on board is the fact that we need to balance our lives, like balance our yin and our yang, right? And one of the greatest textbooks that we follow is a textbook by Peter Deadman, which is the Manual of Acupuncture. But he also wrote a book with his wife called Live Well, Live Long. And Peter Deadman, I greatly admire because he started out like you and me, just regular people. You know, he was a hippie that traveled the world
Wow.
and came across some illnesses. He was in the natural health industry and then soon discovered that there was a process that he needed to go through. And that process was, how do you balance your life? You can eat healthy. You can manage what you do on your day-to-day basis, but how are you balancing your emotions? How are you balancing that anger? You know, we have triggers on a daily basis. How are you dealing with those triggers? You know, and exercise is wonderful and your lifestyle could be great, but there's environmental challenges that we deal with on a daily basis. There's temperature changes. There's pesticides that we deal with. There's air qualities. There's people like us. You and I both suffer from lung issues.
Mhm.
Okay. And there's also something to consider: water quality. What are we doing to improve those elements to better our lives? Right.
Great.
Um, and the Taoists believe that it is our responsibility to take ownership of this earth and make it a better place, not only for you and I, but for the generation that's coming forward.
Well, and I think part
And
of that is acknowledging that we're part of the earth, right? I mean, we act like we're separate from it all because, everything's all about us and we're just going to do our thing and throw our crap in the river and not worry about it. But the truth is, we're part of this earth. And that water that just sucked up our trash, somewhere down the line, it's going to come back to us. And we don't think about it too often.
that's right. That's right. You know, Peter Deadman brings to our attention excessiveness. You and I are go-getters. Are we doing things in excess? If you stand too much, what are you going to deal with? Um, You're going to deal with vein issues. If you sit for too long, you're going to deal with cardiovascular issues. You know, we deal with high blood pressure, cholesterol, obesity, strokes. How do we maintain our health? You know, you could work out, but are you working out excessively? Are you draining your adrenals? You know, you have to go in and check every standard of your life, every facet, and evaluate it so that you are living in complete balance and peace. And do you come from a family that is constantly arguing? How do you balance something like that? You know,
I
how do
think
you,
most
and
people
that's
would say
part of,
yes to that, right?
absolutely, absolutely. The Chinese believe that anything in excess is damaging to our body. Too much sex damages your kidneys. Um, if you laugh too hard, that damages your heart,
You can bust a
believe it or
gut.
not. Your gut is a big contributor as well, right? What are you putting into your body? Do you have acid reflux? Why do you think that is? You know, everything has a rhyme and reason. And again, it boils down to balance. Stress levels will kill you. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, how much of an athlete you are. If your stress is through the roof, you best believe it's going to get the best out of you. So, I love the program I'm in. And not only does it teach you how to balance, it teaches you how to eat. It teaches you how to find ways holistically to better improve your life. Whether it's through needles, through ear acupuncture, to practicing qigong, to getting tuina, which is a medical massage. Um, we are all deserving of relaxation, and you have to make time for yourself.
Where does sleep fit into that? I've been working on sleep as a topic that I've been focusing on, and I think sleep is a great thermometer gauge of how we're doing, because I think if you sleep well, you're probably in some kind of a balance, because that's the place where your body likes to fix itself. And so many people struggle without getting enough sleep or getting a good sleep that we need. You know, people sleep and then they wake up and they're groggy and they didn't really go into good deep REM sleep. And there's so many things that get in our way of sleep. It seems like that might be a good, at least a point on the map to look at as far as to determine, you know, am I in balance?
Well, we see people in clinic that either have a hard time falling asleep, but once they fall asleep, they stay asleep.
Mhm.
Then we have situations where you go to sleep easily, but then you wake up several times in the night, whether you have to urinate a few times during the night. Um, we look at these things, and there's different levels in our lives that change, and we have to go with those changes and kind of fix them. Like if you get up in the morning at 1 to 3, that's a liver concern. That means that your liver is probably overactive. That could be also a potential issue that you may have high blood pressure, because um, it affects your liver, high blood pressure, and also diabetes could be another concern. So there are things we can take to better our sleep. And there are therapeutic things that we can do, like putting lavender at the soles of the bottom of your feet for rest and relaxation. However, too much lavender at the bottoms of the soles of your feet will give you a headache the following day. So everything in moderation,
All this
everything
balance.
in moderation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Balance is absolute key. Are you drinking coffee before you go to sleep? How many times are you drinking coffee during the day? How much caffeine are you consuming? Is your coffee organic? Is it not organic? I mean, these you have to make an assessment, a serious assessment, and be truthful to yourself as to what you're doing to keep you up at night? Is your mind going crazy before you go to sleep? Is your mind going and going and going? Because that is affiliated with the heart. And if you're a worrywart, you're going to have excessive thinking, and that's going to prevent you from falling asleep and prevent you from staying asleep. So there are so many different facets to look at. Self-love is another one. What are you doing on a daily basis? Just, are you giving yourself 10, 15 minutes to breathe? Are you going in the sauna to sweat out those toxins? Because toxins accumulate in the body. Western medicine will sit there and say, oh yeah, you can get rid of toxins. Yeah. Are you sweating every day to release those toxins? Because according to what I've learned and researched, the toxins build up in the body to the point where you start itching out of nowhere. And you're like, wait, why am I so itchy? Well, guess what? You have an overload of toxins. So there's something also to take into account. How many supplements are you taking on a daily basis? And how many, it's not expedients, it's not, what's the term? Excipients. Okay, excipients are the amount of toxins that are in the capsules or supplements that you're consuming. So the federal government will sit there and say, okay, well, here's your cap for this company. But that's not the only company, and that's not the only ingredient that you're consuming or the only supplement that you're consuming. You're consuming a lot others. So all of these things start building up and building up to the point that the body's at max, and the body starts giving you clues as to what's going on. Sometimes we're so busy, we don't listen to those clues. And then you're at the doctor's office when you're above and beyond that threshold. And guess what? You have high blood pressure, you have cholesterol, you have diabetes. So these are three major things that are going on all the time in the United States. And a lot of it can be controlled, and stress is one of those factors that drive these numbers up over the threshold. So take accountability with your life, and know what you're doing, know what you're putting in your mouth. Yes, are you exercising? Are you not exercising? Are you standing too long? Is your back hurting because you're standing too long? Are your ankles swelling because you're sitting for a long period of time? You know, these are all factors. Recently, I have a cousin that travels all over the world, and I couldn't help but notice that she had one ankle thicker than the other.
Mhm.
Now she's traveling, she's walking a lot. And I'm
Right.
saying to myself, well, did you know that you have an ankle that is thicker than the other? She said, well, it happens when I walk too much.
Huh.
That's a circulation issue.
Yeah.
And make note of that, because this can become a potential problem, particularly in our family that has known to have strokes and heart attacks. So it's in the blood. Take care of it now, because once you get to science, it's a whole other issue.
Yeah, it seems like, there's two factors at play. One of them is the cards we get dealt, right? You have genetics. I have genetics. Some people, you're just going to be skinny no matter what you do. Other people, you're going to struggle with your weight no matter what you do. Some people can drink a few drinks every day and never have a problem. Other people, you drink one drink and your eyes go sideways. The next thing you know, you're chasing somebody with a knife. I mean, there are genetic propensities, type 3 diabetes. You've got heart disease. A lot of the factors in heart disease are genetic, but then you compound the environmental and the actions and activities we do, and you can exacerbate them a lot. So you've got this one set of cards that you're holding in your hand, regardless. You just got born that way. There are things you can do, but these are the factors. These are the rocks that you're built with. And then the other part of it is, what are we doing? The conscious choices or the unconscious choices, or all of the things we do, the foods, the supplements, the activities, the stresses, the whatever. And I wonder, like, to establish a balance, I think there has to become some kind of an awareness to really be able to balance. Like, you're in school, so you're being taught these things. Most people don't go to the schooling that you're going to. So, how do you recommend, like, kind of like the common sense, oh, you have to have a balanced life. That all makes sense, right? Nobody's going to argue with that. Nobody's going to say, no, you don't. You need to be extreme in every way. It makes perfect sense. But then to actualize that, to say, okay, well, what does that mean? How do I do it? Yeah, I want that balance, but eh, how do I get it when my sister can, eat a banana split with her meal every single day, and she never gets over 98 pounds. And me, I look at a gummy bear and, I put on 5 pounds. What in the hell? Like, how do I balance that? Do I have to suffer and not ever enjoy something I like? Or, I mean, how does that even work out?
Well, we are all born with predisposed things, okay? Science has even brought to our attention that genetics can be changed. And you have to be really strict on how you live your life. So these recurring cycles don't continue occurring, not only for your life, but your sibling, not your siblings, but your children, your lineage that you leave behind. Um, there are changes that you can make. Unfortunately, our ancestors, Chinese believe that our ancestors have blessed us with certain things, and that is clearly noticeable in our kidneys. Our kidneys are what hold our essence. And sometimes they say, oh yeah, well, notice the people's ears. If they have big ears, they have great essence. If they have little ears, they don't have very good kidneys. These are all things that we kind of look at clinic and put little stories together, but one will not determine the other. You have to look at the entire body and assess the entire person. Now, I'll give you an example of me, because I can't sit here and say, well, this patient, that patient, but I'll give you an example of me. My mother has high blood pressure, my high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, and I don't have these things. My cholesterol maybe will escalate to a certain extent, but then I'll exercise and do more cardio to bring it down. I also have watched what I've eaten throughout my whole entire life, even as a child. I remember there were certain things I would see my family eating, like pork rinds, and maybe I took a bite out of it, but excessive grease did not really agree with my stomach. I would get
You had an
sick.
instinct for health somewhere already. Just, I mean, that was a blessing that you got. Because some
You know,
people,
my grandmother had diabetes, but my
yeah.
grandmother was a holistic healer. My grandmother treated her own diabetes through leaves that
Mhm.
she would get imported from the Dominican Republic. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Uh, I learned how to do fire cupping through her. When I got into Chinese medicine school, I already knew how to do that.
Wow.
So my grandmother was a true blessing in my life. She taught me how to eat and how to live my life holistically and help others with that journey. So there are predisposed dispositions on each and every one of us, but that doesn't, and we have ingrained habits from our parents, stepdads, and mothers. It's up to us to make those distinctions and make those corrections. And we can make a change.
I love it. This is a perfect place to stop for a second, because this is a two-part conversation, and I love where it's going. And you gave me a perfect, easy segue. So this is the part where I'm going to give you an opportunity to let everybody know, how do they get a hold of you? What is it that you want to share? This is a healthy living community. It's all about each of us brings something to this resource, and each of us has something that they can get from the resource. So I always ask all my guests before the show ends, how do we get a hold of you? What do you have to offer?
Well, I do have a website. It's nohicbd.com. And I do have an Instagram that has a pretty large following. Anybody can reach me on Instagram. They can reach me through my website. I am very accessible, actually. I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter. There's many different facets for you to get a hold of me. My name is Christine Leakos, and I am the owner of No High CBD. I will open up other avenues, and I will treat clients at a later point in time once I am licensed, and that should be in about a year and a half
Great.
from now.
Well, we'll be updating your profile. That's another thing. Anybody who's listening to this, there's a profile link on the description of the show. You can click on that, learn more about Christine, and we'll be updating as we have updates to put. Well, Christine, thank you so much. I'm going to rejoin with you in about 30 seconds for part 2 of Balancing Your Life.
Thank you.
It's been the Healthy Living Podcast, brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. Okay, so now